If you have ongoing exposure to controlling people, it's a virtual certainty that you're going to experience blurry boundaries, which is why I've created the extensive online course called This Is Me, Establishing Boundaries with the Controllers in Your Life. There's a link below that will give you all of the details, and I hope that you would find it therapeutic. Because narcissists have such a strong need to be in control and also a strong need to be admired, it's not at all unusual to find that some of these narcissistic individuals can rise to the top of organizations and create a cult-like kind of atmosphere where they are. Very authoritarian, very focused on what that leader says must be. Now, when we tend to think of cults, we obviously think of religious systems, and certainly I know many of you have been inside religious systems where there is a very, very tight belief system and a way of life and habits and preferences and priorities that you're supposed to live into, you'd better live into. But cult-like thinking goes beyond just religiosity. I've had plenty of people that I've spoken with that actually have gone into a family system that can be very cult-like. I remember one woman marrying into a family, and she found out very quickly that the father of the groom was the strong arm inside the family. Everything that man said and did and wanted had to be adhered to. And he was one of these guys that smoked stinky cigars, and he would come into your house and sit in the living room and smoke a cigar. And if you didn't like it, too bad, he'd do that. I mean, he was the large and in charge kind of a person, and nobody was able to question him. And if you did, it's like, oh, you didn't say that, did you? You couldn't do it. Or in addition, you can have work environments where there's a cult-like mindset that's there. I recall years ago inside my profession, you'd think it wouldn't be there, but I went and visited a friend of mine, a fellow that I actually knew back in my undergraduate days, who had joined a clinic. And the doctor who was in charge of this clinic was extremely overbearing and micromanaging about how all of his people had to sit in their office behind the desk and had to wear certain clothing, and they had to address things in a certain way and have a certain emphasis. And in fact, when I was there, my friend had heard me as I was speaking to the leader of this group refer to this man by his first name. We'll just say Jim. And later on, he said, "You didn't call him Jim, did you?" I said, "Yeah, you were there. You heard me." He said, "Nobody ever refers to him as that. It's Dr. So-and-so." Well, he called me by my first name. Why can't I do that? But this man had created this mindset that says he's at the top of the stack. You'd better give complete fealty to that person. Or sometimes you have social groups or civic organizations where one person is so overbearing that nobody dares to come against that leader. Now, there are multiple indicators that says that you are facing a cult-like kind of a system with certain narcissists and their groupies. So let me run through some of these. First and foremost, when we talk about a cult-like atmosphere, we're talking about having an unquestioned loyalty toward the leader. That's the individual who establishes the ideology. They establish truth according to what they say. Of course, they usually come up with some other kind of authority. They may say, well, it's not me, it's God that says this, or it's the book that says this, or it's standard operating procedures. But make no mistake, it's the narcissist who's the ultimate purveyor of truth. The cult leaders establish all the practices that people are supposed to go into, and so they generate a type of groupthink, and you have to be loyal. That leads to another thing, and that is dissent or questioning of the leader is strongly discouraged. That woman who married into the family where the father was it, or me visiting that clinic where you can't call the guy Jim, or a religious system where you can't say, that doesn't make sense to me. You don't do that. You can't do that. That's against the rules. That's the way cults operate. Inside these narcissistic cult systems, micromanaging happens inside the group. Who are you with? Where did you go? What did you purchase? What kind of entertainment are you drawn toward? And there are all sorts of rules and regulations for all these small micromanaging things. What did you wear? How did you conduct yourself? What time did you get home? What are your sexual practices? And many, many different kinds of things where you're told in no uncertain terms, here's how it has to be down to the smallest of details. In addition, inside these cult systems, there is an elitist attitude as you compare the cult to the rest of the outside world. Cults operate with a very strong us versus them mentality. Our way here inside this cult is the only way. And so whenever they see other individuals who are acting differently, there's kind of this mindset that says, I'm so thankful that I'm not like these poor slobs over here. I'm so thankful that I have my way because these other individuals just don't know what to do. And that being the case as well, then they have a lot of scorn and disdain toward anyone who's outside the group's circle. There's a very strong haughty attitude, and they're very intolerant of anyone that comes along and thinks and acts and prioritizes differently. Inside these cult-like systems, there's a very strong control via the use of shame and guilt. I mentioned there's all these rules and regulations, and then if you come against it, it's like you're not just bad. You're terrible. You're going to hell, or you're not one of us, or you've insulted us. And so there's a lot of condescension toward anyone inside the group who would dare be different. That being the case, there tends to be the practice of shunning of those who don't buy into the rules and regulations. It's part of that attitude of exclusivity. People inside that cult-like group are not allowed to explore alternate ideas. In fact, if anything, people who have alternate ideas are the enemy, and they need to have an outside enemy. Those infidels over there, or those people who don't get it, or those people who are trying to ruin the world, or those people who vote the wrong way, whatever it might be, you're not allowed to have different ideas. In addition, if there's any kind of failure or miscalculation on the part of the leader, then that's to be kept secret, or we make excuses. You play the enabler role towards the leader. Or if there's a failure or a miscalculation of the individuals inside the system, then we can't talk about it, or we'll rationalize the failures with distorted reasoning, or you have to keep all that secret. It's a very sick system. And again, I go back and say it's highly authoritarian. You have that primary narcissist who's at the top of the heap, and then they create other individuals who just shake their head and say, yes, that's the way it is. I'm hoping that if you've been exposed to something like this, you can realize this is no way to live. And any kind of organization that has to have this tight type is built upon deep pathology, deep insecurity, paranoia, and typically leaving a system like that is going to be your best option. It's vitally important for you to connect with people who allow you to be you. And so as you examine your association with these kind of individuals and you begin looking outward, I'm hoping that you can give yourself permission to say, even if I have different beliefs or preferences or lifestyle choices that may feel odd simply because that's what the cult says I'm not supposed to be, live into your uniqueness anyway. I give you a very simple illustration. I spoke once with a woman who came to my office wearing pants. And she felt very strange and weird, and I learned that she had lived in a system, a religious system, but also the family and social structure around where women can't do that. They have to wear their hair a certain way. And it just seemed so odd for her to say, well, I'm going to reach out and I'm going to do something really daring. I'm going to wear pants. But that's the way it works. And so as you examine how there's a different way of thinking and doing and being, I'm hoping you can give yourself permission to say, I'm going to step into that uniqueness. And if you've been exposed to this cult-like kind of a mindset, there's one word that I'm hoping you can focus on and embrace it for all it's worth, and that's the word freedom. Cult people and cult leaders and authoritarian individuals don't want you to remember you have a free will, and let's embrace it. Let's live into it. And freedom means you have the privilege to choose. Inside cults, it's like, no, the choices have already been made for you. And I'm thinking, no, that's not the way it's meant to be drawn up. And then if they do attempt to lure you back in, I'm hoping you can appreciate another word, and that's the word boundaries. Boundaries means you get to decide what convictions you get to live under. You get to decide what kind of parameters and what kind of preferences you're going to have. You get to decide who you're going to be. You define you as opposed to them defining you. So let's recognize that no human system or no authoritarian individual has the right to micromanage your life. Variety, individual taste, unique ideas, social preferences, all of that is built into the fabric of human nature. We're meant to be unique and distinct. So I'm hoping that as you move away from that cult-like thinking, you can recognize it's important to live into the things that make you distinctly you. Don't let anyone take that notion away from you. I hope that videos such as this will give you good food for thought. If you've not already done so, I would encourage you to subscribe to our channel, and we'll keep more videos coming your way. There's a notification bell that will come along with that too. If you have a need for counseling, and especially if you've been exposed to things like this, it would be good for you to unpack it with a licensed professional counselor. And if there's someone in your area, I would encourage you to go in that path. Or if you would prefer differently, we have a sponsor, and we have a link below to that can take you to online counseling. This group has a whole team of licensed professional experienced counselors that you can choose from, and I would encourage you to get some help in that regard if that would be the case. In addition, we have my courses, Free to Be, Finding Yourself Despite the Controllers, This Is Me, Establishing Boundaries with the Controllers, and these are multiples of videos and teaching segments and questions. It's a very therapeutic endeavor that you would get into, and so make yourself available to that as well. And in addition, we have my books and other resources below. You know, narcissists can go into that cult-like mentality. They have a way, many of them have a way of rising to the top and being that dictator and that authoritarian. If you see that, that's an enormous red flag. If you see a system that's built around an unbending kind of way of thinking, whether it's religious or political or social or whatever, that's a red flag that says your uniqueness is not going to be allowed here. See it for what it is, and then make your adjustments accordingly, because you deserve a mindset that says, I'm free and I want to live inside a position of peace.